I made a video a few weeks ago talking about how I'm 58 and I'm looking at the next 30 years of retirement. That gets me to 88. And I was feeling excited that that's a huge chunk of time, right, to do anything I want with. I had a comment from a viewer and he literally said, "Don't worry about it. You won't make it till 88. I was like, zoinks. How can you say that to somebody? But then I started to think about it and I looked up the numbers. And you know what? He's right. The average life expectancy for women in Canada is 84 years old. And for men, it's 80. And in the States, it's even worse. It's 78 years old for women and 74 years old for men. And you might think, well, Laura, lots of people make it to 90, but think again, only 30% of women make it to age 90 and only 15% of men make it to age 90. Those are some pretty sad numbers. You know, number one killer, obviously across the board, is heart disease. That's no surprise there. But there are people that consistently live to 90 and beyond, and they don't just survive, they thrive. So today I wanted to share with you guys 6 research proven things that could maybe flip the odds in our favor. And stick around, number 6 will really change the way you think about aging. I'm Laura, and let's get started. My husband and I were looking at the lawn yesterday. It's hopefully spring around here soon, but I was thinking back to the summer where we have a big lawn and I'm always doing the mowing. I actually like doing it, pushing and pulling the lawnmower, lifting all the heavy grass, dumping it out and so on. It's a great sweaty workout actually. And it kind of hit me that that is what people in these blue zones do. So I started to take a look at it, and blue zones are areas around the world where people consistently, they not only live past 90, but they live to 100, more than double the people in these areas. And you might think, well, Laura, I don't live in Okinawa, Japan, or Sardinia, Italy. But you know what? It's not where they live, it's how they live. It's not some kind of magical thing in the air. So let's break it down. Number 1, move all the time. People that live in the blue zones, they are constantly moving, on average like every 20 minutes. So they don't view movement as going to the gym or working out like we do. They weave it into the fabric of their everyday life. But in North America, we're wired for convenience, right? We park as close to the front door of the store. We take the escalator. We order groceries online. We buy electric bikes so we don't even have to pedal, right? We have a million different gadgets that when you look at each one, you think it's kind of insignificant, but they actually add up to really decreasing our level of movement as we go throughout the day. So how can we fix it? Well, you really have to grab onto this idea of doing things the old-fashioned way, which for us Gen Xers, you know, we're probably the last generation to grow up without the technology, and we can actually remember how we used to do things. So, you know, things like actually parking farthest away from the store that you can. So the next time you're at the Walmart or Superstore at the mall, I challenge you, park in the very back of the parking lot and walk. Take the stairs, you know, walk around the grocery store, pick your groceries, carry them, that kind of stuff. Mow the lawn, you know, ditch the leaf blowers and the snow blowers, grab the rakes, grab the shovels, dig in the dirt, haul stuff around, haul the hose across the yard, you know. So if you look at your everyday life, you can probably find lots of areas where you've just naturally, you know, started to use things that are convenient and make it quicker and faster and easier for you. But the fact is, it's actually like killing us. Number 2, I gotta say it, I'm sorry, it's eat real food. So, you know, if you're standing in the grocery store and you look at your favorite box of granola bars and it says like 24 grams of sugar and you think, well, you know, 200 calories, whatever, doesn't seem so bad. But the fact is, 1 teaspoon of sugar is only 4 grams. So that means you'd be standing there when you eat that granola bar, what you're doing is knocking back 6 teaspoons of white sugar at one time. And that's just for a granola bar, right? And that's the problem, is that we don't eat real food in North America, and it's tough because we're surrounded by this stuff. And let's face it, we all know the drive-through stuff, like, is that even real food? People in the blue zones, they don't eat sugar the way we do. They eat whole foods as much as possible, and they don't eat a lot of stuff from a box. So those are the changes that we have to make. The other thing they do, which is kind of interesting, they only eat to about 80% full. So you know that point in the meal when you're having something really good and you think, oh my gosh, I'm starting to get full, but this is so good, I just want to keep eating, and you go ahead and you eat till you're stuffed, right? Those are things that we can do. And if you think about it, I know it's hard. I struggle with this all the time. I like junk food as much as the next guy. But even if we improved it by 50%, think of the impact we'd have on our health. What can we do? Try and ditch the sugar. Take a look at the food labels. Try to reduce the amount of food that you eat from a box. Stick with kind of like an 80-20 rule. The perfect, like we know, doesn't exist. So maybe progress, right? 80% of the time, try to eat actual whole real foods, and 20% of the time indulge. You have to live, right? And that idea of stopping eating when you're 80% full, I think that has real potential, and I'm going to try it if I can. So here's number 3. People in the blue zones, they keep learning no matter their age. So, your brain needs activity, otherwise it gets stagnant and the decline starts to happen. You need to stay open. People in the blue zones, they're always learning new things. They're reading challenging books. They're doing puzzles, crafts, hobbies. They're staying open to learning new skills right into their 80s and 90s. If you're over 55, ask yourself, when was the last time you actually learned a new skill, something that you've never done before? And I bet you for a lot of us, it's been a long time. So if that's you, think about it. That's a problem. You need to stay open and you need to keep learning new things. Learning new stuff like that, it gives us a sense of purpose, right? A reason to get up in the morning. And, a sense of purpose doesn't have to be some big, heavy duty thing. It could be our relationships, our hobbies, whatever it is that floats your boat and gets you up in the morning. And let me leave this point with this. In Denmark in the 90s, they did a study that having a sense of purpose, having a reason to get up in the morning, added 7 years to people's lives. 7 years. Number 4 is control stress. Now, let's talk about stress for a minute. Even people in the blue zone, they don't live in some magical unicorn place where there isn't any stress. They still feel stress like we do. But the difference is that they have specific routines for themselves that help them get rid of the stress. So, Okinawans practice gratitude and take a minute every day to recognize their ancestors. Sardinians take a nap. Somebody else does happy hour. There's all kinds of different things. So look at the stress that you have in your life. And we know that chronic stress leads to inflammation in the body and kind of a deterioration of our health, right? So I think the trick is not thinking that we have to get rid of stress completely, because I don't think that's realistic, but recognizing what stresses you, and then thinking about a routine, something you can do to mitigate that stress each and every day. Number 5, people in the blue zone stay socially connected. And you know what I found out? There is actual research that shows obesity, happiness, loneliness are actually contagious. I never knew that. And so people in the blue zone, they know this idea of staying connected to friends, to family, what an important factor it is for their mental health, emotional well-being, and kind of overall longevity. Sometimes I see retirement videos on here and people talk about reasons why I don't talk to people anymore, or reasons why I don't have friends anymore. And I get it, but I think the truth is, if you isolate yourself and you don't have social connections, people to have conversation with, share experiences with, learn new things from, your world gets really small and then you become isolated, you can become depressed, and that spiral, that downward spiral begins, right? My grandmother lived until she was 92 years old. Oh my gosh, I just love that woman. And you know, I could listen for years. I listened to her stories about, you know, growing up in rural Canada in the early 1900s, no electricity, outhouses, 5 cents for a loaf of bread, that kind of stuff. But what I admired about her was that she was always interested in growing and learning about life now. Like, I really thought she was a modern woman. Even back in the 80s, you know, I was a teenager, and she would want to know all about me and how I lived my life and what was going on with me. And it really not only helped make such a strong connection between us, but I realized looking back, she really was a modern woman, and she was somebody who stayed open to talking, sharing, learning new things. And I really think that that contributed to her living so long. So let's not isolate ourselves as we get older. Talk to family, call an old friend, talk to the neighbors, join a club, you know, some kind of community thing, but keep those connections, and it's going to help us live longer. Now here's number 6, and I actually believe this is the biggest one, and it's the one that drives all the others. And it's to not accept this idea, this mindset that aging means declining. So people in the blue zone, they don't accept that. They don't view the idea of, you know, being in their 70s and 80s and 90s means that they can't do things or that they shouldn't do things anymore. That's a North American thing. We think, oh, you know, we're in our 60s, we should slow down and not ski anymore, or we should, you know, start to kind of wind down and be less active. And the truth is, if we take care of ourselves, there's no reason not to keep doing those things. So I really encourage myself, you, everybody, reject that idea that just because you're getting older means that you should slow down or that you can't do certain things, because honestly, I think that's just a load of you know what. Yes, our bodies age and we have to adapt, but I honestly believe that if we keep our bodies as strong as we can, we stay healthy, we keep making goals, we keep learning new things and staying connected to people outside of ourselves, that, you know, we can live way past those averages and we can reach well into our 90s. It really is just a number. So get out there and do stuff, and don't worry about the age. I'm Laura. I make videos about midlife and living our best life, and I'll see you guys next time.